Over 2 years ago, 15 community members from Barking and Dagenham came together to create the country's first community-led investment fund. And part of that, we've offered a blended finance package, which includes grant funding, unrestricted, and social investment for 8 organisations in the borough. And these members decided who that money would go to. Today, we're making bread with Mide, one of our grant holders from Fruitful Orchard CIC. And together we will share, we will listen, we will make bread together, and we will reflect about the 2-year journey and what we've learned, what's been challenging, but ultimately, what are we taking forward with us from this journey?
It's just been wonderful to be part of this Growth Fund's journey and to be able to share some of my skills back to the group who helped be part of picking the applicants, including myself.
When we first started, my first worry was, this is new territory, this is not something I've ever done before. And I was really worried about, this is an sort of field, investments, coming from a creative background, how we're going to cope, how am I going to cope as an individual. But what I loved was the fact that we weren't taking that decision by itself. We had a group of other people who were also probably in the same type of mindset that I was also, that it was new to them. So we were all coming from different backgrounds. So for me, it's been a really amazing, positive experience and journey.
It's done a lot for my personal growth, learning about investments, learning about the language of investments, and also now taking that further, speaking about it. So I've really come a long way from not wanting to learn about money to now learning about what money can do in a good way, but also to articulate that in ways that people can understand it.
I joined because I've been in the borough for roughly 20 years, so from a young age I've seen it evolve. I've seen things come and go, some good, some bad, and as a young person I definitely wanted to be a voice for change.
Back in the summer, as a group, we allocated £200,000 worth of grant money to 8 organisations, and one of them is Mide, the Fruitful Orchard, who've just been on a business development programme for 6 months. So let's go back to that process. How was that for you guys?
I think it was really, for me it was brilliant. It was brilliant because it allowed me to get to where I wanted to go faster than if I hadn't got that grant.
And of course you were the successful 8 as well.
Yes, which is quite a really weird position because I was on that board, would I say, and at the same time part of the steering group, and at the same time also being a recipient. But I think what it did for me and how it felt for me was I was so honoured. I felt that there were so many other people that could have gotten it, but I couldn't let anyone down because I've been so honoured that I've been chosen, that I wanted to be able to be in a position that at the end of it I'd be able to share with everyone and say, look, you can do it, this was really good, this is something to support really and be part of. So for me it's been a brilliant opportunity that I would advise anyone if they had this opportunity.
How was the dynamic from actually being part of the group and applying for the fund? Because obviously I know that Lily and Irina as well, like you both were part of that dynamic. How did you navigate that?
I just forgot that we applied. So I was reading from a point of view of just going through the applications. First of all, I was quite surprised how many applications.
And how many?
There were.
How many were there?
There were hundreds of applications. and BD Giving went through the initial meeting the criteria, so we ended up with 40. Did we? Mm-hmm. Was it 40 that we ended up with?
Yeah.
So 40.
And then we did to 20.
To read was yes, was quite challenging, shall we say, because you are trying to understand the applicants' goals and how they meet the criteria through their writing, which I've never done before.
What about anyone else? How was that?
Well, you just reminded me, actually. I felt one of the most valuable things we went through was, as a group, coming up with the bullseye, and that whole process, which was like...
And what was in the bullseye?
So the bullseye was, in effect, what mattered to us, how we would... It was like our guide in terms of what we were looking for, that evident social impact. So, and then it allowed us to weigh different things against targets and thresholds that hit that for us as a group. So having that as a tool, as a marker, it always allowed us to come back to something just to check that we were still aligning to what we initially were looking for. And I found that really useful, especially when we had to go through all of the applicants. It was just to check back in to what we set at the beginning that we wanted to do, and that was being accomplished with who we were providing the funds with.
And what about like making decisions about people that you might have known in the community? How was that feeling?
To me, it was like when you asked the first questions about the whole idea of giving the grant, it was very exciting to have the applications from the borough. So we knew that all of them are from the borough. And to have those 100 talented, amazing people who live in the borough, and then to go through those 40 applications and know, like reading about them, someone you knew personally, someone you never met, someone you would think like, oh my goodness, I never knew this was in the borough. Like, why? I still haven't checked it out. And mentioning on the part that me and Lily, we took part on the both sides, we applied as well, and I agree on that. To me, it was, we applied as we just applied, and then we kind of forgot that we applied, and we were again back to CSG part. And it was amazing to see, and I think the most like valuable part as well in this process is that you feel so proud, and you start feeling so proud of the borough you live in and of the people that are here. The most challenging part was the sense of responsibility we had when we had to decide on the applications, because you feel that you're responsible for people, for businesses, and it was both exciting and challenging.
I found it sort of to be like a huge responsibility because I feel like I did know some of those people personally, and I knew that the decisions that we made would impact, you know, at least maybe not their long-term future, but definitely like the immediate future of their organization. So in that sense, it is really exciting, but it's also, you want them to be able to step away from the process no matter, you know, what the decision was in the end, knowing that they've gained something really beneficial. So I do hope that yourselves as well as others did get something beneficial from the process, whether or not, they received the grant. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it just showed the weight of responsibility that we had, didn't it? It wasn't like a simple, easy decision that you had to make. There was a lot riding on those decisions to try and make the best decision you can with what you've got from applications. And because, as you said, you're trying to make an impact. And having the bull's eye and having our priority set be ahead as our homework, having that done earlier in the process, was really helpful to now come back when you're reading applications to now begin to weigh in and compare and see if they were trying to really align to what you're trying to achieve. So that was really important. And it wasn't an easy task, because I think there was a lot of reading.
There was a lot of homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really made me to think about if you're trying to do recruitment, what part that plays in you trying to get the right people on board for your own team. So now thinking about that in bigger terms, you're trying to change 8 organizations, and you really want to make the right one, choose the right ones. So it was not an easy decision, but you have to make it at some point, isn't it? I think for me, it's knowing that you don't always have to have the answers. I'm very, very confident in myself. And because of that, you know, I just go full on. But when you're with other people, you kind of learn to just take a bit from that and learn to listen a bit more. So listening skills definitely improved from coming on this journey, being somebody that's in a group where I do like to talk, but sometimes I have to learn to listen. And then also not just learning to listen, learning to take some of those things that I've learned and see how I can use it to actually inform my own decisions. So very good also decision-making skills have come out of this process for me.
The Mide here, for someone who obviously, Kemi, you were part of the process of designing the fund, but like Mide, you were successful and received the funding. How was the process for you, like the whole Grow Fund, or like maybe the application part and then going into the bit?
I think one thing that I truly appreciated was I didn't feel like the application process was complicated. I think this is sometimes could be one of the huge barriers for individuals who have this amazing idea and dream but is unable to show that based on the questions that are being asked. So I think when I was going through the application process and seeing the questions, I think there was one particular question where it was just like something kind of borrow related, you know, and you can just definitely see the thought and the care into how it's using these questions as a tool to select the right people. So yeah, no, if I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't going to apply. I just remember that evening walking into the launch and just seeing so many amazing stories. And I'm going to be honest, I think I felt a bit intimidated. Is what I do enough in terms of how I help my community? And I think I was just quite inspired by some of the people that I spoke to. And it made me realize that I do have a lot more to offer, and it would be wonderful to have that support to be able to, impact as many people in our borough. So I've made a loaf earlier. Love it. And what I've done is I've mixed 3 flours together. So for those who have done all 3, hopefully it might taste something like this. So what I'll do is I'll cut this up, and for those who are happy to have a bit of spread on, maybe you can have some and taste some, and then we can start adding our yeast to our dough. Perfect.
Earlier we were kind of talking about what drew you to being part of the community steering group. What was it? What was it about it, that the opportunity that kind of screamed at you, if anything?
Oh. I think the first thing that drew me in was an opportunity to have a voice. So I've lived in the borough for 20 years now. So I've literally, obviously, been the youngest. So I've gone from school age to a full-grown adult. So I've literally seen it develop, and some things I've been happy with, some things I've not been too happy with. And so I thought this is an opportunity to get my voice out there, to also have a voice for the quote-unquote youth. Not so young, but yeah. Because I feel like a lot of younger people feel like they don't have a voice, or they don't know how to get involved. They want to make change, they just don't know how to go about it. So I always say, if you want your voice to be heard, you have to be at the table initially.
So would you like to see more youth voices getting involved in decision making?
Absolutely, I would. Not that I'm saying anyone's going anytime soon, but you know, the future is ours. So I feel like it's important to lay down that foundation, you know, and just to set a good example, I think. And for me, one of those things was like huge on sustainability and being green and things like that. And so, definitely younger people should get involved, because I feel like it's our responsibility at the end of the day. Like this legacy, we've started something brilliant here, like something that no one has ever done before. So it definitely needs to carry on, but it needs to carry on the shoulders of people who are just as passionate about seeing change, and they're able to channel that passion into actually doing something physically about it and wanting to make a difference, of course.
So to someone who kind of wants to join the group or just kind of get involved with what we're doing here, what would you tell them that someone, they're looking at joining or participating?
I'd say go for it, to be honest. Similar to you, I felt like a bit young, inexperienced, know nothing about investments, as I'm sure like many of us didn't. And I applied basically because my boss said, this sounds cool, have a look. And I just started working in the community. I work in community development. And so I thought, oh, this is a great space to, like you said, have a seat at the table and just learn. So I'd recommend like just learning and trying to, things are always happening to us in the borough, and if we want to change that, we need to be a part of the process. So that, yeah.
I like the learning bit there. So Wumi, kind of what have you learned from being part of the process and being with us for almost over 2 years now?
That you can pick up something new, whether young or old, whether middle age or age is not a barrier. Age is not a barrier to you achieving things in your life. And I see this as I would say, accidental opportunity. Sometimes you don't know where it would lead you, where a path will lead you. So I've learned a lot that you can learn about investments, you can learn about the language of money, and you can use it to thrive. And hopefully one day I'm going to have my own investment fund. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I always saw investments as a big thing, unattainable thing, very unreachable. And because it felt like an elite club, you, as someone that's maybe local or even like maybe middle class, I didn't even aspire into that. I didn't aspire into the world of investments. They were never part of my aspirations. So I see this as very much an accidental opportunity that I've embraced, that has grown me, that is opening up my horizons, my thinking, and I know that I can do something with this.
It's been amazing to see our community steering group reflect and learn together while we make bread with Mide. It's beautiful to see that they've been part of the journey with BD Giving to spearhead the nation's first community-led investment fund, and what a journey it's been, and I'm really looking forward to what's to come for the fund and for the future of Barking and Dagenham.